One of the most impressive things about the 2022 Georgia Bulldogs is the way that they can change the game plan from week to week on offense and defense. And they just control the football game. When you're playing the Georgia Bulldogs, you're playing Georgia Bulldogs football because Kirby Smart and the crew has gone into each game and said, okay, here's how we're going to play it, and you're going to have to adjust to us because we have made our game plan to adjust to you. Here's what we're going to do. Deal with it. Because what's been really impressive has been how they've played. Like, they look like, I'm not saying that they're like they look like a bad team one game, they look like a good team one day. That's not what I mean. I mean, they play games where it's like, okay, the game plan, we're going to fly down the field and we're going to score. And there's other games where it's like, okay, we're going to slow it down. We're just going to crush you. And we've seen that, and we've seen them very in the middle. And it just depends on the game plan. It depends on the matchup. And that's one of the most, it's astonishing to me how they've been able to do that. And look, they've crushed everybody, but I mean, they didn't crush Missouri. No, they dominated the second half, but they didn't crush Missouri. And they struggled a little bit against Kent State, but ended up winning by almost 20 points. They won by 17 points. That's a wider margin of victory against Tennessee. Look, they were clearly the much better team. Honestly, those two back-to-back weeks where they just kind of didn't look too hot. Other than that, I mean, they've just outright dominated each game, and maybe they've had a couple bad quarters here and there, but they've outright dominated. I mean, I consider Florida domination. I consider Tennessee domination. I consider Auburn domination. Vanderbilt was domination. I consider Samford domination, and Oregon was peak domination. Now, I can say this because I watched the games, unlike some people who clearly don't watch football committee. Some people are not watching the games. I'm watching the games and I'm watching other games, and that's why I can say this, because I like the scoreboard. Excuse me, the scoreboard doesn't matter to me as much as it matters to some other people. But if you look at the scoreboard, yeah, Georgia has thoroughly dominated people, but it's been in different ways. I mean, the way that they beat Oregon and the way that they beat Tennessee, those were both like just skull bashing two of the top 6 teams right now. Tennessee's 5 and Oregon's 6. All right? Those were 2 different types of skull bashings. They were both skull bashings. Do not tell me anything other than the fact that Georgia destroyed Tennessee. I don't care if it was 14 points. That was the biggest 14-point domination I've seen maybe in my life. I'm not joking. I mean, that was just total obliteration of the Tennessee football program in a day. That's what happened. I'm sure Tennessee will bounce back. But a few days ago, Georgia crushed them. I'm going to get more detailed. Make sure you're checking out Dogstruction, link down below, and the Kelee Ringo thing. We're going to have a signing with him. You can get other things signed. It's exclusive. There are not that many tickets left. When he intercepted that ball against Tennessee, sales started ticking up. So spots are running out. Link is down below. It's going to be the Sunday after Kentucky at Red Zone, downtown Athens. You know, we got a thing with Jeff Foxworth this upcoming Sunday, the Sunday after Mississippi State. There's all sorts of stuff that you need to be checking out. Links are down below. Ryan Clark from Dog Post here talking about the way that Georgia decides to dominate people. Look, I'll go through it week by week, and we'll just, because it doesn't fit the content in this video, I'm going to skim over Kent State, all right, because it wasn't really domination. It was just they won convincingly, but it wasn't really domination. I will discuss Missouri. So Oregon, what happens? Georgia scores 7 touchdowns on their first 7 possessions. And they were flying down the field. I think the longest drive as far as time and plays go was the first one, and they still went down there and scored. But, dude, I was on the field. It was just boom, 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 dink, dunk, a little bit downfield, dink, dunk. Let's get it to Kenny McIntosh on the sideline. Let's get it to Ladd McConkey on the sideline. Stetson Bennett ran around. I mean, it was just they were flying down the field. Dan Lanning looked shocked, and he looked confused, and that's just what it was, all right? They just flew by the Ducks, all right? So don't tell me dogs can't fly. They flew by the Ducks. That's what happened. Samford Defensive shutdown. It wasn't about scoring a lot of points, apparently. 33-0. I know it's Samford. I know the line was like 50-something, but 33-0, you're going to tell me that was a bad win? No. Domination. South Carolina, very similar to Oregon, where they just flew down the field. Brock Bowers had that. Timing is perfect. Brock Bowers had that long touchdown. That was a big Brock Bowers game. He had 3 total touchdowns, 2 in the air, 1 on the ground. He showed a little bit of everything. The Georgia offense showed a little bit of everything. Something that's happened a lot this year for Georgia is getting within the 5-yard line, within 5 yards of the end zone, and then just punching it in. They've had a lot of touchdowns like that where they just haven't finished on big plays, and then they end up punching it in. Whatever, right? If you score, you score. So very similar to Oregon, the way that they handled South Carolina, garbage time touchdown, and the defense is swallowing most of these teams too. But I'm a little bit more focused on the offense. Kent State, whatever, right? Bad game for Georgia. It was. They had a whole bad half, really. And that's why the score is what it was. I mean, it's one of those things like Ohio State didn't play well against Northwestern. I can't ignore that. Georgia didn't play well against Kent State or Missouri, right? So Georgia had 2 bad games in a row. But second half Missouri, Georgia completely controlled the pace, right? So first half was obviously abysmal offensively for Georgia. Defensively, the defense didn't play that poorly. They allowed 1 touchdown. The dude was wide open. Not okay. And this happened 2 or 3 times to Georgia this year. One being against Florida when Malachi Starks went for the ball instead of the coverage. So then Stetson Bennett, when they had to score, they scored. And so the second half was just it was 2 completely different halves. I was there. I could feel it. I was a little bit closer to the sideline that Georgia was scoring on in the fourth quarter. That drive that Stetson put together is one of the most impressive drives I've ever seen him and that offense put together because they had to score, and they did. And he made all the throws. So then Auburn. Let's just run the football, right? That's what they did. They ran it down their throats. They didn't air it out. Stetson Bennett has a 62-yard touchdown. Branson Robinson, he scored. He had 98 yards and a tutty. Dejon Edwards had, I believe, 3 or 4 touchdowns. So, it was a completely different game plan. They said, okay, well, we know you can't score on us. We're just going to run the football down your throat. Fast forward to Vanderbilt, obliteration on both sides of the football. Florida, Georgia ran the ball, I thought, well against Florida. Stetson, a couple bad passes, but and one of them being the touchdown to Brock Bowers. I thought Georgia really just controlled the game. The third quarter was the outlier where Florida really got things going, but 75% of the game, Georgia was in complete control of the football game. And then you get Tennessee, right? And it's it's different than the way they beat down on Oregon and Vanderbilt and South Carolina, right? They controlled the pace through their defense, really. The defense was so tight. The defense was all over the place. The open field tackling was amazing. They got to the quarterback finally, right? I saw 8 sacks. There's only 6 recorded, but there really were 8. I don't know why they recorded some of those as tackles at the line of scrimmage when they were clearly behind. But there was a lot of things wrong in that game, including the safety. We're not going to get into that. So then, Stetson, it was a big Stetson game, guys. He threw really pretty deep balls. He had, if he ends up getting to New York, which is not impossible as a Heisman finalist, you'll look back at this game and you'll look back at that scramble when he hits the pylon. He escaped the dude. I've got a great picture of it. I wish I pulled it up of the Tennessee player in the dirt, and Stetson puts the phone up because of what happened the night before. But, what's impressive to me is the way that this Georgia team just beats you in a variety of ways, and it's something Dean and I talked about in the offseason, right? Yeah, you have Brock Bowers, and he is a marquee player, but there's Ohio State, Tennessee, USC. These teams have, these marquee superstars that they feed the ball to, and you think about these offenses, and that's what you think about. Well, Georgia's offense and Georgia's defense as well can just beat you in a variety of ways. They're deep in their variety, right? Maybe they're not deep in actual depth. They're deep in the variety of talent and different ways they can beat you. And it's part of the reason why, as of today, I don't think Georgia is – I think they're going to go 15-0. I have a hard time seeing them lose to anybody in the country. I know I felt that way last year. They drop it to Alabama. I don't know if there's an Alabama that's going to get in their way this year. Ohio State is the only team in the country, I think, that has a shot to beat Georgia as of today. I don't think Michigan could do it. I don't think Tennessee would do it in a rematch. I don't think Oregon would do it in a rematch. I would be very skeptical if USC slipped in and they did it. I already said Michigan, definitely not. I don't think LSU would beat them in the SEC championship. I don't think Ole Miss would if they somehow sneak into the SEC championship, because Georgia can just adapt and destroy. Not adapt and overcome, adapt and destroy. It's astonishing what's going on in Athens and in this football program. I mean, it is a football program that is somehow still on the rise. All right, that's what Kirby Smart is doing. They're still on the rise because if you asked him, they haven't arrived. Make sure you're arriving at Clayton Street at the Red Zone Sunday, November 20th. The Kelee Ringo thing is going to be fun. You're going to get to meet Kelee. He was the hero of the national championship game. He played phenomenally against Tennessee. You get a book. You get things signed. It's going to be a lot of fun. Dean and I will be there. The crew will be there. Come out and join us. The tickets are down below. Doug Instructions down below. DoorDash is down below. Everything you need is down below. See you at the site, dogpost.com.